My name is Logan Manford, founder of BLōFISH Clothing. We are a clothing company known not only for our amazing clothing, but also for our even more amazing message, all for all. This is not your normal podcast. No celebrities, sports, or money. This podcast, the Speakeasy, has been created for the other stories, the ones you may not want to hear. These words are the stories of your neighbors, of the people you pass every day on the street, from the homeless to sexual assault survivors, to those being disowned for their sexuality. It is the sound of our community, and we hope you listen with open ears and an open heart. Hey friends, welcome back to the BLōFISH Speakeasy. We're here at the store, recording with our awesome trans friend, Kat.
What's up?
How's it going, Kat?
Hey, it's good.
It's good. We've known Kat for a while now. He wandered in the store right as soon as we opened. We got the store open March of 2016, and ever since then...
Was it March? I guess it was, because it was toward the end of it was toward the end of our senior year.
Yeah.
We were having a sushi party.
Is that how you came over? Was a sushi party?
Yeah, we were over at Zoe's with a bunch of people eating sushi, and she's like, let's go to Garage Bar and play ping pong at 11 p.m. at night. And then she's like, let's go into BLōFISH. And like, they're open. I'm like, okay.
That's right, she came in first. That's crazy.
No, it was cool, and you all were just like chilling out in the front room.
Hanging out. That's what we do here. We just chill out in the front room and just welcome everybody who comes in.
At midnight.
Yeah, at midnight.
Still open.
All the time. We don't have anything better to do than fold clothes at midnight, but it's pretty cool. So, Kat's got a pretty amazing story. Not only is he transgender, but he's also transracial, which is pretty cool. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then we'll also talk about Kat and conference coming up next week. It's a pretty cool conference in Philadelphia. I'll let him get a little more into that later. But he's just all around talented. He's a climber. He's a video maker. He's a little bit of everything. And hopefully we can get some suggestions and he can talk a little bit about other people who are maybe considering transitioning or in the process now. So it'll be pretty cool. So, Kat, go ahead and give us a little bit about your background. I don't really know too much about it either. We were talking about that a little bit before, but I assume you were raised here in Louisville?
Yeah, I was raised here. I was born in China in 98, and then a year later was adopted by two wonderful parents who live here. So born and raised Louisvillian. Is that how? I don't know.
Louisvillian. You say Louisville right, so you're in the club.
I'm in the club, and I've just been here. It's a homey city. I love it, and I love how for our size, how many local establishments and restaurants and businesses we have. I think that's pretty cool and pretty special.
It's pretty amazing. We love it here in Louisville, and like you said, the people and the different types of little establishments here, there is really cool. As far as schooling goes, did you grow up in, I guess, public school, stuff like that?
Yeah. I grew up in the JCPS system, and it was, fine. I think it's definitely one of those things where you don't see the flaws or the mistakes until after you're past that, because especially you always talk about bullying and everything. Bullying's a big topic in schools, and you never think that you're the kid who's bullied, or it has to be physical bullying, or it's something very, very noticeable. But when I think about it, my 5th grade year, there was this one 3rd grader, and it sounds really stupid, but I was he was really mean and would bully me every morning about being adopted. I don't even know how he figured out I was adopted or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think it was even that he figured out I was adopted. It was just because I'm Chinese that he would tell me every morning I was made in the Chinese baby factory.
Holy cow.
And at one point I did tell the custodian I was close with, and she made it stop. It's sort of that thing that you kind of just rub off. I didn't ever notice it was bullying until I was in high school thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week with Alex about how you don't really realize some of these situations are going on until you're kind of removed from it, and you look back and wow, that kind of affected me.
Or how bad a situation was. And
I guess it's I'm kind of our human nature to try to just not justify it, but I guess do what we have to do to get past it and go through there, though. So from there, you went to high school here, right?
I did. I went to Grand Old DuPont Manual for 2 years, and then I finished out at St. Francis.
That's awesome. Those are both, for those of you who don't know, really good schools here. And
Manual's has too much pride. It's really gross. Too much academic pride.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I hate I make videos, and I've avoided saying the name of the school when I'm talking about it, or if I'm like bad talking it, because I don't know, for some reason I just feel like bad about it, or I feel like it's gonna bite me in the butt at some point. But it's so prideful that it's really, really harmful in terms of its academics and its athletics, because if you don't fit into one of those, then they don't care about you
I see what you're saying.
at all. Manual was the first environment and place that I'd ever been where there were a surplus of Asian people, to say. And I guess it's because of, you know, its prestigiousness and the attribute that comes with the manual name and its magnet program. But it's difficult. I think one of the hardest things about being Asian, specifically Chinese, and being raised in a family or an atmosphere that doesn't necessarily take on those cultures is the stereotype of Asian people always being incredibly smart and, you know, math, science, technology, that's their thing, and not necessarily, you know, the arts or anything creative like that. Like, you have to have one or the other, and because you're Asian, you're gonna always be the other. So I didn't really fit in that. I didn't really fit in with that crowd.
I feel like that happens a lot nowadays with even like parents who are athletic, who have kids that maybe aren't athletic,
Yeah.
and the pressures that are naturally put upon those kids that maybe they don't fill the role that their parents see exactly, or what society sees them as exactly, just because they come from one background or another. It's just undue pressure, and I think it adds on. We get a lot of slack from, I call them older people, but about our generation being too sensitive and stuff like that. But I think a lot of it does come from that pressure, trying to be put in lanes that we're not meant to be put in.
And I read earlier, you know, like, why are you getting mad? You know, it's a positive stereotype to be seen as smart. And it's really not, because it affects your psyche in such a way that, I'll be real, I hated manual.
Yeah.
Like, both the 2 years that I was there, I was out for probably a collective month from some illness that I would continually get. And it turned out just my body telling me, you don't want to go back. So we're going to make you sick so you don't go back. And because of that, you know, my grades dropped. It's like, I've always been a smart kid. And, you know, it wasn't necessarily hard work. It was also just very much that, especially with algebra, I didn't actually take a formal algebra class. It was sort of like a pre-algebra, then jump to algebra 2. I didn't do well in algebra. Like, in my geometry class, when we had that 6 weeks of just algebra, my grade would drop tremendously. And it was sort of, you know, because I'm Asian, I'm supposed to get this. It's supposed to come naturally, and I wouldn't ask for help. And then, in addition to that, when my grade would drop maybe like to a B and a minus, a C, I would almost feel like I was failing my race. Yeah. Because you have that you feel like you have that stereotype.
I can't imagine how much pressure that is.
Yeah, and then in addition to just like with the manual brand that's been attached to you as a student, you feel like you're supposed to be doing something better there too, because you're like, I got into the most prestigious school in Kentucky. I don't
know. It reminds me of this guy named James Altucher. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he talks a lot about these kids getting forced to go to college when they know they're not going to do anything with their degree. It's unreal that all these pressures are being put on you in your life for something that you're probably never going to use again. And it affects you so negatively for really nothing. It's crazy that algebra is the thing that like puts so much undue pressure on you. It's wild to me sometimes to think about.
Yeah, and like ever since then, sort of that experience and continued with being transracial, I do fine. I'm smart. My mom tells me I'm smart all the time. But, you know, like, I couldn't have a care less about my grades. I had a 4.0 GPA in college, but when I got like an 82 or an 88 on a paper, I'd feel like I did something wrong because it wasn't greater. It wasn't like a 90 or a 92 or anything higher than that. And, you know, like, I'm not smart enough. But my first year of college, I made the dean's list twice.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe you're supposed to be proud of it, but I really don't care. I don't have a care for it, because after all that pressure's put on you, you just sort of like, it's not anything special to get a good grade or even a bad grade anymore. It's just kind of like, well, that's what it is.
It's just there.
It's just there. And I think it's kind of sad how that positive stereotype can negatively affect someone so much to not caring.
Yeah, I've never even thought about it from that deep of a perspective, I guess, because you always hear the jokes about it or the whatever, but actually hearing it from, and for those of you that don't know, Kat is Asian, so we are on a microphone right now, so I guess we should have cleared that up. Our Asian, really cool trans friend named Kat. So coming out of there, I guess we'll go back a little bit. When did you first realize something was different, or that you started maybe not considering exactly transitioning, but just
Yeah.
when did something hit and you're just like, hey, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I've always been, growing up, I was a tomboy, you know, that's what I was, yeah, like, tomboy. My mom was like, he'll grow out of it, and sort of, let me just be as expressive I want, let me wear what I want. You know, I remember in elementary school, I think maybe it was fourth grade, the first school pictures I did where I didn't really dress up and I was wearing guys' clothes. And fourth grade was a big year because that's when I really started wearing guys' clothes and stopping in the guys section. I really liked it and I felt comfortable that way. So I was always a tomboy growing up. Always very masculine.
Parents react? Were they pretty accepting, or would they push a little bit, or was it?
When I decided to come out, and it was sort of the advent of YouTube was really, really helpful in that, because all of a sudden you had this expansive resources at your fingertips and you could visually see changes and sort of feel a community or a friend through this process. So that's where I really learned information about transgender. I heard about it and started looking into it while I was in high school. They mentioned about someone who was transitioning, and things do really change when you actually meet someone in person who's trans and you see their life and stuff. It's, you know, you might see it on the internet and you might be, okay, this is sort of like it, but it really, you know, it settles it when you physically know someone and they're visually and physically in front of you and you're able to talk to them and that kind of thing about it.
It's a connection more than just like
an
very imaginative thing.
It was sort of the piece of the puzzle, like it fit and it made sense. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to transition. It's like, okay, I'm trans. Yeah. So when I decided to come out to my mom, and I think I came out to her like maybe like 2 weeks or so after I'd been doing a lot of heavy research, like right after I figured it out.
Yeah.
I knew what I wanted, but I wrote her a letter and I sort of stage it like I'm kind of questioning my gender, you know, to sort of maybe put a buffer zone to make her feel more comfortable that, you know, we're jumping head deep into this. Maybe there's a chance that it's not going to be this thing, but let's go to the gender therapist to figure it out and sort things out. I think I did it so that maybe she could feel like she had some say in it, even though your parents don't. It's about you and your identity, but I was a minor, so like I'd really need her support in this transition in order to do it. And I thought in doing that, it'd make her feel like she had a stronger or more important part type of thing in the decision to transition.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important. Oftentimes, I'm just as guilty as anyone, but just almost writing it doesn't have to be your parents, but people who may not agree with what you're doing and with your life in general, whether it's moving to a different city or coming out or anything like that, to almost give them a chance in a way that's not like immediately confrontational. It's not always going to work out, and it might never work out in some cases.
And it was very much also telling her that and making it clear, I want your help and I need your help and I want you to be a part of this. You know, I'm not going to do this without you.
That's awesome.
So, because I think there's also a lot, you're respecting them as their child, that, you know, you see them as a parent and that this is a big life decision and a life change that they should be a part of, or more than anything want to be or would want to be a part of, depending on how accepting they are.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, and then she told my dad, like, I wasn't about to do it. I didn't want to do it, so she told my dad, and he was fine with it.
P.S. Mom, can you please tell Dad just a little bit?
Yeah,
so
we told him, like, maybe a few months after I had been in gender therapy and was really, you know, setting on this is what we're going to do and stuff, when we were really, or when she was kind of, like, clear about, you know, this is what's happened, so we should tell your dad. It's like, okay, you can tell him.
Yeah, so we don't have to go too far into this, but for those out there maybe wanting to do, step one is kind of, I guess, talking to somebody, making them aware, and then I guess...
yeah, and it doesn't even have to be your parent or anything, just someone, like, you know, close to you, because I can't imagine what or how difficult it would be to transition without any type of support, no matter who it's coming from. Like, this is something that you really, really can't do alone, or I wouldn't believe you could do alone, especially with surgery and stuff, depending on if you're going to transition that way. It's really beneficial and important for you to have people to take care of you.
I think it's important with a lot of things, too. We referenced Alex last week, but a lot of people have been through the same thing. I mean, not that history repeats itself, it's an old term, but there's somebody out there who's been through not exactly what you've been through, but something similar. So even if it's not somebody in your immediate family, like you said, or immediate friend, just like you found YouTube. I mean, there's people out there nowadays.
YouTube,
you can reach out to Kat. I mean, there's all kinds of people.
Go for it. YouTube is so incredible and so versatile and amazing in what it's become, and the access it's given people. Not including the YouTube LGBT restriction thing. That really sucks and is still...
Separate podcast. Come back next week.
My trail of thought just went away.
It's okay. It's just crazy to me to think, like, how you first got this feeling and then you were able to turn to something like YouTube, and that allowed you to become who you are. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I started YouTube not only... because I wanted something that I could look back on my own as a self-documentary project. But when I was doing my own research and stuff, there were figures such as Skylar Kurgel. He was a really, really big impact. He was kind of like the number one for me in terms of information. But there's, also Alex Birdie and some other guys, Chase Ross. But you know what? They're all white. And here I am, Asian. And even though I've been raised in a white household, my genetics... and when I transition, I'm gonna still be Asian.
It's true.
There's a little bit of genetic difference there. I'm not gonna have a lot of hair, probably not gonna get a lot of facial hair, that kind of thing. So even though I love their videos and I really appreciate everything that they've done for me, I had to look elsewhere. So that led to looking for Asian trans men, hopefully Chinese trans men, because then it's a little bit narrowing it down.
Yeah.
And even further, American Asian trans men, and there's not a lot.
Yeah,
I've realized there's a lot more on Instagram now, but there's still not a lot on YouTube. And I think that's something I think about a lot, because it is very true and scientifically proven, I believe, that an Instagram like or an Instagram follow or subscription, it'll give you a dopamine rush.
It definitely does.
And it makes you feel good about yourself, like you're doing something right, or you have friends and you're getting attention. And I will admit I've been susceptible to looking at a photo or seeing my followers drop or not having a jump in followers and feeling not great about it. What am I doing wrong? I was doing well, blah, 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 blah. And it'll make me think, why am I doing this? If this makes me feel bad, if I'm not doing well, why do I still do it? Why do I put myself in this position? And, that sounds so narcissistic, but it really isn't about the likes. And then I remember I decided to do this to be at least one more Asian trans person, Asian trans guy that people can look to for a physical transition, to see maybe I'll look like that, or maybe that's how my genetics are going to present themselves. Looking at or have an idea about what you're going to turn out like is so important. And it's even harder for transracial people, because you don't know anything about your history. So you don't know if you might have male pattern baldness in your family because you don't have any men in your family you can look at, or any women in your family you can look at, and you don't have any starting idea.
That makes sense. It's kind of cool. Going back to what you said too about the Instagram and Facebook and dopamine, it's interesting because you see it all the time on these social media platforms. The reason you started this journey was not for likes or for all this stuff.
Not at all.
It's kind of crazy the way
And when I started, I had I was using the Instagram account that I had when Instagram became, and then went on made another one, and then that one blew up because I really started working on it and really worked on putting myself out there instead of this freshman one that I was connected. It's a joke. Don't look for it, but it's private anyway, so you can. And now that I have a public one and am publicly out, sort of that's what it's become.
It's wild to see people too that, like I said, they start with something as the root of why they started to tell their story basically. Instagram might as well be pictures that this is my story. That's basically what it is. And
and body positivity and just being another way to connect, because for surgeries and stuff it's really hard to find results that might fit your body type, blah blah blah, and just seeing picture results and spreading information, and it's a way to do that pretty easily.
That's cool. I encourage people, just the ones that are out there, stay true to yourself, and obviously if you want to grow your following, do that too, but there's a reason you're gaining followers if you're doing something right, and that's usually being true to yourself, you've talked about, keep putting your story out there, and that's how that happens. I think when people start trying to go down a different path is kind of when they lose their way, I guess you could say, on social media, but that's next week again. No, I'm just kidding. If you haven't, go check out Kat's. What is your YouTube channel?
You can do youtube.com/KadenRunner, KadenRunner.
Yeah. And it's pretty remarkable to see the before and after and the transition, and go check it out. It's pretty cool. The stuff we've been talking about, if you want to get a more visual, then it's cool. We talked a little bit about like how hard it is to take that first step. What do you think, looking, not that the journey is done by any part, but I kind of feel like you're over the hill a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say as of right now, I'm kind of like, I'm just in this peaceful period. There might be surgeries in the future, but right now I'm just kind of at I'm at the plateau, and maybe there's another hill in the way at some point, but I'm just riding out the plateau and chilling, and it's great.
Looking back, what do you think was the hardest part?
It kind of depends on what you're looking at. As I said, I came out and transitioned as a minor, medically transitioned as a minor, so the parental support was really, really important for that. And my parents are divorced, so it was mainly on my mom's parental support because I live with her. It sort of wasn't, I knew what I wanted. It was sort of just like making sure that she was ready because she would have to do it with me as well.
Yeah.
So we went out to a conference called Gender Spectrum out in California. I think she found it like right after I came out when she was doing her own research. And we went out there. I met some really cool trans guys. I'm still friends with some of them, and we talking every now and then. But it gave her a place to connect with parents and medical professionals other than, not that I'm a medical professional, but like learn information from people other than a biased view, because this is what I want. And
you did your research. I mean, you looked into it. You made sure it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I remember on that Saturday, it was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. At lunch, I was with friends, and she pulls me aside, and she's like, I know you've been ready for a while and you want to do this. Well, I can tell you I'm ready to do this now too. So, and that's when we kind of really got the ball rolling on talking with the gender therapist and getting letters and talking to doctors, and that's when it really, really kind of started. In terms of myself, the lowest point was probably, I'd say, 7-week gap between when I started T and when I had top surgery. That gap was probably one of the hardest and most depressive points during the transition, because you just know it's coming and you're so ready for it, but just thinking about it and dealing with it brought me to a really, really big low. So that was probably just the worst part about it. Just that wait time. The wait time for that, and then the wait time to start T. Just when you're getting so close, but you still have to wait.
Wait a little.
That's the hardest. Yeah.
Would you change anything, I guess, about as far as the order went? Would you have done it differently, or do you?
No,
think
not at all.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it worked out fine. I'm really happy I was able to have top surgery as early as I did.
Yeah. Because
a lot of people aren't, and I was able to go to the surgeon that I wanted to, and didn't have to really like wait or anything. I think it worked out the way it was meant to be.
That's cool. I think a lot of that, it does go into, as much as it is, but patience. I mean, it sounds like you had a lot of patience through this whole process. As bad as the lows were, I think it is important to realize that changes in your life, whether it's something as big as this or even small as switching jobs, like sometimes I struggle with it a lot, is rushing into something when it really is that breath before. Yeah. And then you can go ahead and make sure that leap is where you want to
I can agree, yeah.
So for those out there trying not to decide, but that these thoughts are going through their head right now, what kind of advice do you have to them? They might be scared to take that first step, or they might be in the middle of this process and going through it. What advice would you have looking back on it?
I think this is something you hear a lot from a lot of people in the LGBT community, and anyone who wants to come out as anything, is that no one's ever going to force you to come out. You'll know when it's ready to happen. And because you'll be at a point where you either need to come out so you can start doing whatever you need to do, or you're at a point where you are comfortable enough with yourself that it's sort of just a shrug. This is part of who I am. It's kind of like a shrug off your identity or whatever. You can just say it. So I think there shouldn't ever be pressure to come out, and you'll do it when it's ready for you to do it, because you'll feel it. Yeah.
As far as advice goes, I mean, if you do have questions out there, there are resources to turn to. Obviously, Kat's one of them. What are some other resources? You mentioned YouTube and the people on YouTube.
YouTube's like a big one. There are a lot of books now. A lot of transgender personalities are putting out books about their transition. Gigi Gorgeous put out her documentary on YouTube.
It's amazing.
And, a lot, it's just sort of, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's our time, but it's time for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we here at BLōFISH are really all about, is being yourself, be you. We're thinking about doing a big campaign with that, but it's really all for all, and who you think you are and who you really feel inside, that's important. Like you said, now's the time. I mean, we're living a great time, as crazy as everything is out there. It's nuts, don't get me wrong, but it is much easier now to be yourself than I think it has ever been in the history of the world, really. It's crazy.
Yeah, probably. I'm really lucky to be living in it.
It's wild. So, go ahead and talk a little bit about next week. You're going to Philadelphia. Tell me a little bit about that.
I'm going to the Philly Trans Health Conference, which is, I don't know how many years it's been going on, but it's been going on for a little bit, and it's sort of the, I guess you'd say, bigger conference that a lot of the trans people that have helped me through my transition, that they go to. And it's a conference. There'll be medical professionals, seminars, that kind of thing, and just a place for trans people to meet other trans people and to educate and get information. I know there's some seminars talking about surgery and allowing trans people to show their surgery or their results.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's, what date does that start again?
It's September 7th through 9th.
And I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of resources, all kinds of YouTubes. I know Kat's going to be doing some YouTubes. So
Yeah. I'm hoping my little point sheet comes in, so I'll be doing some vlog type stuff.
And we should have this out before then, just in case you are in the Philly area and you do hear this. You're doing a little meet and greet.
Yeah,
rock
I am.
Right?
I climb, and something new that I want to do is I want to go to a climbing gym in whichever city or country or wherever I travel to. Climbing is a really big thing on my Instagram. It's sort of become that just because I got back into it.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of people reach out to me about climbing and how to start it and wanting to do it, and people have been picking it up. So I want to do a meetup, but I don't want it to be awkward. I want it to be fun for us to have an activity and stuff. So I fly in on Thursday the 7th, and it starts at 6, but I'm going to be hosting a little climbing jam at the Philadelphia climbing gym called Go Vertical. If you want to come out, we'll hang.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be trans. You don't have to be
just like anybody. Just come climb. It's fun. It's for everybody. There's all different.
You don't have to be good at climbing. We were talking earlier. Kat started talking about climbing for 2 hours. I said I can't make it 20 minutes or 2 minutes for that matter.
Yeah, and you don't have to be good or professional or anywhere on anyone's level, because there's something for everyone. You might be climbing some things that I can like go up really easily and you're having a hard time with, but then I'll be climbing something that I'm having the worst time with, and it probably has to do with crimps.
That's funny. The climbing.
Pull me up with my fingernails.
That's funny. Yeah, it's important to know that as much as different topics and as depth as we get into, everyone we have on this podcast, it's so cool because when you see them interacting with people, whether it be here at the BLōFISH store when I witness it or out in the community, it's crazy just to see how welcoming all these people are, despite, not that you've had struggles, but I mean, it's definitely been a journey.
It goes on the level of struggle, I think.
And just to see, like,
I think you can go on that level.
Your smile and just see your upbeat attitude. So if you can go, you want to meet Kat. He's a really cool dude. A couple other things you might not know. Kat's gonna be doing some cool film work here for BLōFISH, hopefully soon. So if you see anything else like that, in addition, he is our producer for this podcast, so we're really excited to have him on board for that. It kind of all came together. We talked about doing a podcast first, and then I really didn't know what the heck I was doing as far as this stuff goes, and I'm blessed to have people like Kat in my life, and BLōFISH is blessed to have people like that who really care about giving back.
It's great.
If you need anything, or if you want to reach out to BLōFISH, feel free. You can find us at BLōFISH Clothing on Instagram, blofishclothing@gmail.com. We're on Facebook as well. We're looking for iTunes ratings just to get this on the board. So if you have something negative to say, message us. No, we're just kidding. If you can give us a review, that'd be amazing. We want to hear as many different types of people's stories. We're talking to people that probably wouldn't normally get as big of a platform to speak on, and that's kind of what we're about here, and just bringing everyone together. And our number one rule here at BLōFISH is to have fun. So go ahead and tell them a little bit your Instagram, your stuff like that.
So I'm always open. I've always got an ear to lend.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say work, but network mainly throughout Instagram now. A little bit of YouTube, but Instagram is something I'm on pretty much the daily, even if I'm not posting daily. And that's at cat like a cat. Just type in the entire thing. It's not just cat, but it's cat like a cat.
With a C.
Yeah, that's why it's like a cat, meow meow.
That's funny.
And yeah, DM me there. Just connect. I try and comment replies on my photos, but I usually don't. So if you really actually want to talk to me, DM me because I'll get that and stuff. So
And you have a good conversation with Kat, and then
sorry if it sucks though, because I'm not good at talking through message. We'll just FaceTime instead or something.
we'll make it work. Thanks again, guys. As always, you can always shop with us at BLōFISH.com. 10% of every sale, right off the top, goes to charity. Spend $100 with us, $10 to go to charity. Our charity of the month last month was the NACAC. They do a lot with adoption. Kids who have special needs or who are born with special needs, they help find places for them to get adopted. So I should have mentioned it earlier with Kat being here and adoption, stuff like that. But they do a lot to help that out. And that was our charity for September. If you still want to, or for August, I'm sorry. If you still want to donate to them, you can find them NACAC. Just type that in on Google and it'll pop up. And you'll see a little bit about them. Or just message us. We can help you find them too. And look out for our charity of the month starting September 1st. So the whole month of September we'll have another one, but you have to check out our Instagram to see that. So thanks again, guys. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.